Mary, I need to tell you something embarrassing.
Go ahead.
I was in a meeting last week, 12 people. I had something genuinely important to say. I had thought about it, I had prepared, I knew it was a good point.
And
I waited for the right moment. And then someone else started talking, and I thought, okay, I'll wait for a gap. And then someone else started, and the gap never came. And the meeting ended, and I had said nothing.
how long was the meeting?
55 minutes.
55 minutes and 0 contributions.
0. And the worst part? After the meeting, I told my colleague what I had been thinking, and she said, "Oh, that's exactly what we needed to hear. Why didn't you say that in the meeting?"
And you said?
I said the Wi-Fi was bad.
Albert.
I know, but here's the thing. It was not a confidence problem. I am confident. I know my subject. I was not afraid to speak. I just did not know how to enter, how to get in. The door was always closed by the time I got to it.
And that is the most common meeting English problem that exists. Not vocabulary, not grammar, the mechanics of getting into a conversation that is already moving, the specific language that opens the door before someone else closes it again.
Which is what today is about.
Completely. I'm Mary.
I'm Albert, LeapTalk English, B2 level, real conversation. And today, English for meetings. Every phase, every situation. The language that makes the difference between being heard and being invisible. Word tour at the end. Stay for that.
Quick comment question before we start. What is your most difficult moment in a work meeting in English? Entering the conversation? Disagreeing? Presenting? Tell us in the comments. 1 sentence.
Okay, let's go from the very beginning, because meetings have a structure, and each phase of that structure has its own language.
So let's map the meeting, because a meeting is not one continuous situation. It is several different situations that follow each other, and the language you need in each one is different.
What are the phases?
The opening, the agenda setting, the discussion, which is the longest and most complex phase, disagreement and pushback, decision-making, and the close, the part where you land on actions and next steps. 6 phases, 6 different sets of language requirements.
And most people only know the language for 1 or 2 of them.
At best. So let us go through each one. Albert, opening first. You are chairing a meeting, not attending, leading it. What do you say?
Most people say, okay, let's get started, or let's begin.
Which is fine, functional. But there is a version that does more, that sets a tone and creates a frame for the meeting before anyone has said anything substantive.
Show me.
Thanks everyone for making time. I know this week is busy. I want to make sure we use this hour well, so let me quickly frame what we're here to decide, and then we can open it up. 3 things happening there. Acknowledgement of people's time, which signals that you respect it. A commitment to efficiency, which signals that you are in control and the meeting will not drift. And a preview, which tells everyone what kind of conversation this is going to be before it starts.
That preview is doing a lot. What we're here to decide, not what we're here to discuss. The word decide signals this is an action meeting, not a talking meeting.
Exactly. The word choice signals the expectation, and people unconsciously calibrate to it. If you say what we're here to discuss, the meeting stays conceptual. If you say what we're here to decide, people know a concrete outcome is expected.
What about if you are not the chair, if you are just attending? What is the language for showing up ready and engaged before you have even spoken?
The pre-meeting small talk is underrated. That first 2 or 3 minutes before the formal start, the chit-chat while people are joining, a lot of people go silent during this period. They wait for it to be over. But this is actually where relationships that make meetings easier get built.
So what do you say?
Keep it specific and warm. Not how are you as a formality. How did the client call go yesterday if you know they had one? Or did you manage to look at the brief before this, which is work relevant and signals you have done your preparation? Or simply, I've been looking forward to this one. I have a few thoughts I want to test.
That last one is interesting. I've been looking forward to this. You are signaling engagement before the meeting starts. You are telling the room, I am here to contribute.
And it is subtle, but it shifts how people see you before you have said anything substantive. The engaged person in the room gets more credence when they eventually speak.
Okay, the discussion phase, because this is where most people struggle. The meeting is underway. Multiple people are talking. You have something to say. How do you get in?
There are 4 entry types, and knowing which one to use in which moment is a real skill.
4 types. What are they?
First, the additive entry. You are adding to something already said. You agree broadly and want to extend the point. Language, building on what Mary just said, or to add to that, or that connects to something I wanted to raise.
Low friction. You are not disrupting the direction of the conversation.
Right. Second, the redirecting entry. You want to take the conversation in a different direction without directly opposing where it is going. Language, I want to make sure we also cover. Or, can I bring us back to something for a moment? Or, before we move on from this, there's one thing I think we need to address.
That "before we move on" phrase is one I use a lot now, actually. It is very effective because it is urgent without being aggressive.
It creates a small deadline. The conversation is about to move, and you are staking a claim before it does.
Third type,
The questioning entry. You are not stating a position. You are asking something that opens up the discussion. Language. Can I just check? Are we aligned on what success looks like here? Or, I want to make sure I'm following. Is the proposal that we X or that we Y? Or, what's the assumption behind that? I want to make sure I understand before I respond.
The questioning entry is powerful because it does not require you to have a fully formed opinion. You are buying time and gathering information while appearing engaged and sharp.
And questions in meetings are very high value. The person who asks the question that nobody else thought to ask is often the most valued voice in the room, more than the person with the loudest opinion.
Fourth type,
The interruption. Used carefully, not aggressively. There are specific English phrases for interrupting that are socially smooth in professional settings. Sorry to jump in, but I think this is really important. Or, can I stop you there for a second? I just want to flag something. The sorry to jump in signals awareness that you are interrupting, which paradoxically makes the interruption less disruptive.
because you are showing you know the social rule even while you are breaking it.
And timing matters enormously. The best moment to interrupt is at a natural pause, the end of a sentence, a breath, a moment when the speaker is collecting their thought, not mid-sentence. That reads as aggressive even with the softest language.
What about if you are getting interrupted? Because this is a real problem. You are speaking and someone cuts across you, and suddenly you have lost the floor.
This one is underserved in language teaching, and it is a real professional skill. There are two approaches. The graceful yield, you let them in and find your way back. Language, yes, and just to finish the thought. Or, I'll let you add to that and then I want to come back to my point.
I want to come back to my point. That is committing. You are publicly stating that you are not done.
Which means after they speak, there is a social expectation that you get the floor back. You have created it. The second approach, the firm hold, used when the interruption is cutting across something genuinely important. Let me just finish this thought, said calmly, without aggression, while continuing to speak. Not aggressive, not apologetic, just continuing.
The energy behind that matters as much as the words.
Always. Calm and steady. You are not fighting for the floor. You are simply continuing to hold it.
Let's talk about presenting in a meeting. Because presenting inside a meeting, not a formal presentation, but the moment where you share an idea or a proposal or a recommendation to the group, it's one of the highest stakes moments in professional English.
And most people do it in the least effective way possible. They start with the background, the context, the history. They build up to their actual point like they are constructing a suspense novel.
And by the time the point arrives, the room has moved on mentally.
Because attention in a meeting is not guaranteed. People are thinking about other things, checking their phones under the table, planning what they are going to say next. You have a very small window to get your key message in before you lose them.
So what is the right structure?
The inverted pyramid. Point first, evidence and context second. In a meeting, you lead with your conclusion, not your reasoning.
Show me what that sounds like.
Wrong order. So I've been looking at the data from Q1 and Q2, and there are a few things that stood out to me. In particular, the trend in the Northeast region, which has been diverging from the national pattern since about February. And when I cross-referenced that with the customer feedback data, it started to suggest a pattern. And I think what this is pointing to is that we need to rethink our regional pricing strategy.
I lost focus around Northeast region.
Everyone does. Now, right order. I think we need to rethink our regional pricing strategy, and the Q1, Q2 data is showing us exactly why. The Northeast is diverging from the national pattern in a way that maps directly onto customer feedback. I can walk through the specifics if that's useful.
Point first, then evidence, then an offer to go deeper.
And that I can walk through the specifics if that's useful is doing something very sophisticated. It is putting the room in control of how deep you go, which signals confidence. You are not going to talk for 5 minutes regardless of whether anyone wants it. You are asking.
And people almost always say yes when you ask that way, because now it is their choice.
Exactly. You have made them participants rather than audience, and participants are more engaged.
What about the language of signposting inside a meeting presentation? Because I know this is something that makes a huge difference.
Signposting is the language that tells the room where you are in your thought, so they can follow even if their attention dips for a moment.
Examples.
The first thing I want to flag is, there are two parts to this. Let me take them separately. The background quickly, and then I want to get to the recommendation. I'll keep this brief. The key point is, before I get to the solution, let me make sure we agree on the problem.
That last one is particularly good. Before I get to the solution, let me make sure we agree on the problem. Because if the room does not agree that there is a problem, your solution is irrelevant.
And by naming it, by explicitly asking for agreement on the problem first, you build the foundation that makes your solution land. You are not presenting to a skeptical audience. You are presenting to a room that has just agreed with your premise.
Disagreement, because this is where I think the language gets most specific and most important. The wrong words in a disagreement can damage a relationship for months.
And the right words can make you look like the most professional person in the room, precisely because you disagreed well.
So what does disagreeing well look like in English?
It has 3 parts: acknowledge, redirect, offer, in that order every time.
Walk me through it.
Acknowledge. Find something genuine in what the other person said and name it specifically. Not "that's interesting" as a filler, something real. You're absolutely right that the timeline is the core constraint here. I think the point about client expectations is really important, and I don't want us to lose it.
And it has to be genuine. People feel a fake acknowledgement immediately.
They do, which is why you need to actually listen before you respond. Find the part you can honestly credit, even if you disagree with the conclusion, and name it. Redirect. Introduce your different perspective with language that signals a different direction without creating an adversarial frame. Where I'd want us to think carefully about this, the piece I'd push back on slightly is my concern, and I think it's worth naming. The assumption I'd want to stress test is
Stress test. That phrase keeps coming up.
because it is perfect. It does not say you are wrong. It says let us be rigorous, which is a completely different relational position. And then offer. Close the disagreement by offering a path forward, not just opposing, contributing to the solution. What if one way we might address both concerns is, could we agree to? I'd suggest we,
So the disagreement ends with you proposing something rather than just opposing something.
which leaves you in a constructive position regardless of how the room responds. You are not the person who said no. You are the person who said, here is a different way.
Can we do a full role play of this? Because I want to show what it looks like in a real meeting exchange.
Yes, I'll be a colleague presenting something. You respond with the acknowledge, redirect, offer structure. Ready?
Ready.
As colleague, I think the most efficient path here is to launch the campaign in all markets simultaneously at the start of Q3. It keeps things clean operationally and the messaging stays consistent.
As meeting participant, I think the consistency argument is really strong, and operationally clean is genuinely important. I don't want to lose that. The piece I'd push back on is whether simultaneous launch gives us the feedback loop we need. My concern is that if something isn't working in one market, we're already fully committed everywhere. What if we piloted in 2 markets in the first 3 weeks, kept the timeline and the messaging, and used that to validate before the full rollout?
Good. What did you notice about that response?
It started with agreement, real agreement. Consistency is strong and operationally clean is important. It didn't dismiss the proposal.
And the pushback, the piece I'd push back on, was framed as a concern about risk, not an attack on the idea, and it ended with a specific alternative that preserved as much of the original proposal as possible.
So you are not the person who blocked the idea. You are the person who made it better.
Which is a very different professional reputation to build.
Decision-making language. Because meetings often have to land somewhere, a decision has to be made, and the English of that moment is surprisingly specific.
It is, and a lot of meetings fail to land because nobody uses the language that signals it is time to decide now.
What does that language look like?
Can we get to a decision on this today, or do we need more information first? Which is actually 2 options, which makes it easier to answer than can we decide today alone. Are we in a position to move forward on this? What would it take to get to yes on this, which is a negotiation-style question that identifies the remaining obstacle? I'm going to call it, the recommendation is X, does anyone have a strong objection? Used when you are the chair and the meeting has circled long enough.
Does anyone have a strong objection is very different from does everyone agree?
Crucially different. Does everyone agree invites passive silence from people who have doubts but do not want to raise them. Does anyone have a strong objection raises the bar for opposition. A small hesitation is not a strong objection. It filters for actual blocking concerns rather than mild preferences.
What about when a decision cannot be made? When the meeting is going to end without resolution, how do you close that professionally?
We are not going to land this today, and that's okay. What I want to make sure we do is agree on what we each need to move forward. What's the one thing that, if you had it, would let you come to a decision? That question, what's the one thing, is enormously efficient. It cuts through vague, unresolved feeling and gets to the concrete blocker.
Because usually the reason a decision is not being made is a specific piece of missing information or a specific unresolved concern. And once you name it, once you make it concrete, it becomes solvable.
And the meeting ends with an action rather than an impasse. We are going to get X by Wednesday and reconvene Thursday is a completely different outcome from we'll continue this next time.
The close, the last 5 minutes of a meeting. This is where most people completely switch off because they think the real content is done.
And this is actually one of the highest leverage moments in the whole meeting, because what gets said in the last 5 minutes, the actions, the owners, the deadlines, is what determines whether the meeting produces anything at all.
So what is the language of a strong close?
First, the summary. Before you close, someone needs to say what was decided, not assumed, said out loud. Let me just make sure we're all leaving with the same understanding, and list the decisions explicitly, one by one. This sounds simple. It is almost never done properly.
Because people assume everyone understood the same thing.
And they almost never did. Meetings are full of assumed agreements that turn out to be different things to different people. The explicit summary is the insurance against that.
And then the actions.
Before we close, can we make sure we've got clear owners and deadlines? Who is doing what, by when? Not we should probably, not it would be good if. Specific, named, dated.
Sarah is sending the revised brief to the client by Thursday end of day. Not we will get back to the client.
The difference between a named person and a collective we is enormous. We means nobody. A name means accountability.
And if you are the person taking the notes, the meeting minutes, what is the language for confirming an action before you write it?
Just to confirm, you're taking the lead on X, aiming to have it done by Y. Is that right? Simple, direct, specific. It gives the person an opportunity to correct it if you have misunderstood, and it creates a moment of explicit public commitment.
Because once you have said yes, that's right in front of 12 people, the social contract is very different from a vague general agreement.
And the final close, the actual ending. Great, thank you everyone. We've got clear actions and a path forward. I'll send a summary this afternoon. Or, good work, let's pick this up on Thursday once we have the data. Or simply, thank you, I think we're in a good place. Let's move.
Let's move. 2 words. Decisive, clear. The meeting is done. A word tour. First word, agenda. An agenda is the list of topics to be discussed in a meeting, the plan for what will be covered and in what order. A good agenda makes a meeting focused. No agenda makes a meeting drift. For example, she sent the agenda 24 hours before the meeting, which gave everyone time to prepare properly. Or the meeting had no agenda and lasted 2 hours without reaching a single decision. Repeat, agenda.
Agenda.
Next, facilitate. To facilitate a meeting means to lead and guide it, keeping it on track, managing contributions, moving it towards decisions without dominating the content yourself.
For example, he was an excellent facilitator. He made sure every voice in the room was heard without letting any one person dominate. Or facilitating a meeting is different from presenting in one. The facilitator's job is the process, not the content. Repeat, facilitate.
Facilitate.
Next, consensus. Consensus means general agreement among the people in a group. Not necessarily that everyone is equally enthusiastic, but that everyone can live with the decision.
For example, they did not all agree completely, but they reached a consensus. Everyone was willing to move forward with the plan. Or, trying to reach consensus in a meeting of 20 people is almost impossible. The more useful goal is identifying whether anyone has a blocking objection. Repeat, consensus.
Consensus. Next, action point. An action point, sometimes called an action item, is a specific task assigned to a specific person with a specific deadline, agreed in a meeting. For example, the meeting produced 6 action points, each with a clear owner and a date, which meant everyone knew exactly what was expected of them by when. Or, a meeting without action points is just a conversation. The action points are what make it productive. Repeat, action point.
Action point. Next, defer. To defer means to postpone something, to move a decision or discussion to a later time rather than resolving it now. For example, they agreed to defer the decision on the budget until the Q2 numbers were available. Making the call before then would have been guesswork. Or, knowing when to defer is as important as knowing when to push for a decision. Not every meeting needs to resolve everything. Repeat, defer.
Defer. Next, minutes. Meeting minutes are the official written record of what was discussed, decided, and agreed in a meeting, usually circulated after the meeting to all participants. For example, she always sent the meeting minutes within 2 hours, which meant actions were confirmed while they were still fresh, and nobody could claim they had not understood what was expected. Or, check the minutes from last week's meeting. The decision on the timeline was recorded there. Repeat, minutes.
Minutes. Next, stakeholder. A stakeholder is anyone who has an interest in the outcome of a meeting or decision. They might be in the room or they might be outside it, but the decision affects them and their perspective matters. For example, before taking this to the full team, we need to get buy-in from the key stakeholders.
Otherwise, we'll spend the whole meeting managing objections instead of making progress. Or a common meeting mistake is making decisions without considering absent stakeholders, which means the decision often has to be revisited. Repeat, stakeholder, stakeholder.
And finally, mandate. A mandate is the authority to do something, a clear instruction or agreement that gives someone the power to act or decide.
For example, she went into the meeting with a clear mandate from her director, which meant she could make decisions on the spot without having to check back. Or it's worth clarifying before the meeting whether you have the mandate to decide or whether you're just gathering input, because those are two completely different kinds of conversation. Repeat, mandate.
Mandate.
8 words: agenda, facilitate, consensus, action point, defer, minutes, stakeholder, mandate. All of them are words you will hear and need in every meeting environment. Small challenge before we close. Think of the next meeting you have coming up, just one meeting. And before it happens, write down one phrase from today that you are going to use. Just one. The entry phrase, the signposting line, the acknowledge redirect offer. Pick one.
And after the meeting, come back and tell us in the comments. Did you use it? How did it feel? What happened?
Because that is how these phrases become yours. Not by knowing them, by using them once, and then again, until you stop remembering that you learned them.
I'm Mary.
I'm Albert. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.